Hi, glad you could join us. I'm Annette Sherman. This is Community. Have you been hearing about a whole campaign, a fun campaign actually, that is about civility, about being civil, about caring about someone else and what they are experiencing and showing that you do care? Because that whole initiative has been renewed by the Gulf Coast Community Foundation. I say renewed because 10 years ago, and they're going to tell you the story themselves, 10 years ago, and I remember vividly, that they had the Civility, the campaign to promote civility. And if you think about it, the first time, well, let me introduce my guests, and we can include them in the conversation. Two wonderful people I personally am very fond of. First, we have Mark Pritchard. And Mark is CEO and president of Gulf Coast Community Foundation. And I'd like you to, if you see Mark at an event or something, walk up and shake his hand, because he is doing one wonderful job. And what makes me realize that is the response that people tell me about. You had him on your program, Annette, and he is so, have you spoken to him? But of course I've spoken to him. I know he thinks, the way he thinks is unique, but it is very, very effective. Mark Pritchard, the CEO of Gulf Coast Community Foundation. He only picks pretty talented people. I don't mean just somewhat talented. I mean who are very pretty, who are beautiful. And he has a bunch of beautiful people who are also very capable and talented. And he brought an example of that type of individual. And her name is Veronica Brady, and she is the Senior Vice President of Philanthropy. Is it for philanthropy?
For philanthropy.
Okay. So and I was saying to her that she and I are going to get together and talk about if you can call it an estate, but whatever there is, I want Gulf Coast Community Foundation to take care of it for me, and they will, and do a great job. So we'll get together one of these days and
Absolutely.
take some time off and get that done. Let's start a little bit. Let's spend a little time on your background, because each of you have had really quite extraordinary backgrounds. Mark, you are first.
Thank you, Annette. Well, thank you for having us today. We're thrilled to be here. It's always a joy to share what we're doing at Gulf Coast Community Foundation, where our mission is, together with our donors, we transform our region through bold and proactive philanthropy. I moved to Florida in 1986 to complete my PhD at Florida State. And then I was quickly picked up by the Florida Chamber of Commerce and did a lot of policy analysis for them in tax and economic development and education. Then I was a lobbyist. And then Governor Reuben Askew tapped me to be the head of the Collins Center for Public Policy. And we had offices in Tallahassee and Miami. And then about 9 years ago, Terry Hansen, who was the president and CEO of Gulf Coast Community Foundation, asked me if I would join her team, and it was been just a joy ever since.
Now, when you joined her team, she was the CEO.
Correct.
Okay. And I understand that she was the one really, well, one of the people at any rate, who had decided that you would be the next CEO. Be a perfect CEO, the way you thought, the way your ideas, and how you worked with the people that were part of Gulf Coast Community Foundation. So she's the one that really was encouraging everyone to put you in that position. And apparently they felt the same way, and there you were.
Well, yes, it was an honor to be selected, but I tell you, I can't do my job without my teammates like Veronica and Wendy Deming, Corey Reeves, John Thaxton. They're just an amazing group of people, and we work hard to transform our region, and I'm just blessed to be in the job I'm in and to give back to the community.
Well, that's an example of two things. It's an example of the truth, but it's also an example of the willingness on the part of Mark Pritchard to admit that his people are very important and they are excellent at what they do. And that kind of attitude brings us right to, we get to it, very shortly. Veronica, your job, and it's not an easy one.
No.
Neither is his, God knows.
Yeah.
But,
So I've been with Gulf Coast Community Foundation for 7 years. Terry Hansen picked me, pointed a finger at me, and ultimately recruited me to join. I had moved to Florida and actually graduated from Venice High School in the late 70s, early 80s. Went to the University of Florida and came back here. I loved Sarasota and had a wonderful opportunity to work for what turned out to be SunTrust Bank for 25 years, which I loved. But then I had always been active in the community, and the opportunity to come work for Gulf Coast and do what I get to do was too good to resist. So
I think it's a wonderful fit because it's just, Gulf Coast Community Foundation is very special. I know that the last time you were on, Mark, you talked about how you've grown. Gulf Coast has grown financially. Is it still on the path of growing?
Yes, we've had some record years in terms of philanthropists in our region wanting to invest in our initiatives, to join our team, to transform the region, as I said earlier, through their donor advised funds. It's just endowments. Just yesterday, we celebrated in Venice the groundbreaking for a new library there, and one of our philanthropists had invested $1 million in an endowment at Gulf Coast that will forever fund this library in Venice. So it's just a joy to work in our region.
There are some people out there watching us now who says, yesterday. No, it can't. Because yesterday from when we're taping this. Yeah, just to get that clarified.
Thank you.
But endowments and that kind of thing is a tribute to what I was saying, to the kind of management that Mark Pritchard gives Gulf Coast Community Foundation, and the kind of work and management that not that you're not beautiful, but she's
Veronica is,
the
and you are.
The very beautiful Veronica Brady. Okay, 10 years ago, whatever motivated, it was Terry Hansen?
Terry Hansen was president.
And you weren't here 10 years ago.
I was not at the
and her
foundation.
people, and I know that she's always had a wonderful, Gulf Coast has always been an outstanding organization for choosing very special people, like John Thaxton. And the fact that John has had so much experience in politics and knows this community, was born here. This morning's paper had a wonderful picture of John. And I've known John for many, many years. But this is getting that kind of person who knows the community, and you are another one, who knows the community. You've worked, I love SunTrust Bank. For many, many years. Margaret Callahan is a dear friend of mine, just elevated, and she's coming this year to our Community Video Archives
Excellent.
luncheon. At any rate, good people, good thinking, which brings us again to civility. Talk about 10 years ago, Mark, and what it's about.
Yes, 10 years ago at Gulf Coast Community Foundation, they wanted to look at what makes a great community. And they had invited Richard Florida in to talk about that, and Robert Putnam, his book Bowling Alone was very popular at that time. And they said there are certain keys to civility, to building up the civility, the fabric of a community. And so Gulf Coast launched a civility initiative and the 10 key factors to civility, and worked with Ringling College to develop materials, posters that are still out in some of the buildings and schools today. And we thought, wow, 10 years later, it would be wonderful to relaunch that, to give it some new color, to get it into the schools and the workplaces again.
So Ringling College, being under the leadership of Dr. Larry Thompson, and again, embracing the community, even as the two of my guests do in their function, can be called upon. And when he's called upon, he draws on these wonderfully talented students that he has, and probably does something very special. Veronica, did he do something very special?
He did something incredibly special. They designed a civility squad.
Civility Squad. Now remember that phrase, because I'm going to give you, in fact, let's put that on the screen, please, Damon. The number, the how they can get in touch with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation if they want some of these things or if they want to get involved, but how they can get in touch with, and there it is on the screen, how they can get in touch with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation. And I would suggest that you use the website because otherwise it's business hours, and you may want to call at 1 in the morning when you're thinking about being nice to somebody, a neighbor, or being nice to somebody your child plays with. You can call the Gulf Coast Community Foundation. Okay, and then this is the Civility
So
Squad.
there's little pictures and little poems in some of the materials, but we brought two of our characters in the squad.
Now, what did they do? They did an animated video?
Yeah, animated
Yes,
video.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And characters that represent each of the 10 keys. So I am actually wearing a little button that is be positive. This little character is make a difference.
And I really think that this is, it's like other things in our life that are very important, but we don't stop to think about them until there's a reason, till we're motivated to think about them. And civility is the antidote to bullying. Civility is the antidote sometimes to moving forward. There's a story that you told about when you were involved in politics. Just briefly tell that.
Well, Annette, you remember the 2000 presidential election was very controversial, and it was decided by less than 600 votes in Florida. And there were some mistakes and some things that happened in the election that caused a lot of people to lose faith and confidence in the electoral system. So Governor Jeb Bush at that time asked me to take 10 Democrats and 10 Republicans and 1 independent and come together and analyze our election system, which at that time needed. So we looked at technology issues. I mean, remember the hanging chads, you know, so that was part of the deal. We looked at policies and procedures, and we looked at how we educate people about the election system.
A lot of controversial.
A lot of controversy, very heated.
Particularly you got Democrats and Republicans. I think each wanted their own way, I suppose.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we were really focused on at this time was to really analyze the issues that happened in the election, but more importantly was how we treated each other as Republicans, Democrats, and Independents working together to solve a problem. And the amazing thing was, on the eve before our first meeting, we had 2 members say, I think this is going to be railroaded through, this isn't going to work properly, and we're going to split off and form our own group. And I called those 2 people and I said, I promise you that you will be treated with respect, you will make a difference, and we will listen and hear everything you say wholeheartedly. And those 2 members came back. They did not split off. And all of our 35 recommendations that we made as a task force were unanimous.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a perfect example that that's what they needed to hear. Not, listen, if you want to go get the heck out of here,
Right.
that kind of thing, well, we're going to do what we think is important, never mind. That's anti what we're talking about, anti-civility. And it disrupts, it is a terrible thing because there's no progress to be made and nobody is going to feel good and nobody is going to come away with the kind of thing you're talking about, with a product from that meeting. So that it's not only meetings, political meetings, which is a good example because we know how hostile it can be, but it's also in their daily life. For kids, if you have kids in school, and if there is that kind of thing that goes on, try a little civility. Join the squad. And realize that it is not a matter of anything except this is the way you're going to make progress. This is the way you're going to make friends. This is the way you're going to see things proceed at an unbelievably fast and happy pace. Wonderful initiative, the two of you and all of the people in your organization. Get on board, everybody. We're going to put that website on the screen again, please, Damon. It's very, very important, very simple. Do you want to say it for us while it's on there?
Sure. Our telephone number is 941-486-4600.
And our website is www.gulfcoastcf.org.
It's just as you see it there. And the thing is that we talked about bringing that video for the program, but the fact is that if you get the website on your computer, you can see that video. If you need more inducement than that, I don't think you've been listening. No, you don't need more inducement. You want to see that because it's adorable. And the talented people at Ringling College of Art and Design are just that, talented, wonderful, caring people. And I know that they've been thanked many times by the Gulf Coast Community Foundation and the people who've experienced the video. And I'm going to thank them again because I know the wonderful work that they do. Okay, now let's, and people have talked about it. I don't know how many people read Kathy Silverberg in the Herald Tribune. I cut her article out, her column, and I didn't have the date. I didn't write the date down. Kathy Silverberg is an ex-publisher of the Herald Tribune, and she has on the op-ed page her column, and she talks all about the efforts to encourage kindness in our community life, and talks about the campaign we're talking about, the civility campaign and the civility question, and how to recognize and how to make it happen. Make civility part of your life and part of your personality. You'll feel better, and so will the person you're extending that courtesy to will feel better. So many things are happening at Gulf Coast, but I guess this is right now going to be the most important thing.
It's definitely one of the keys.
It's one of the top ones.
Absolutely.
And when people go to the website, they'll have an opportunity to engage. So they can take a training class. We have all the materials online, but they can actually come into a training class for how to bring civility to a workplace. They're going to, they can be, we said, get civil, get social, and get swag. So getting civil is going through some of the training. We'll be partnering with the school system on bringing civility into all the classrooms. And then,
Oh, that's such a good thing.
and we're very
Veronica.
excited, very
Because
excited
you hear
about it.
these stories with kids bullying and kids being so absolutely, unbelievably thoughtless and not caring. And when I taught, and I taught for many years, I would try to make the kids who would behave that way try to learn how it feels to be on the other end.
Sure, sure.
And I think your way is better, just civility.
I think it's going to really work. And then we encourage people to get social, which means go onto social media and give us feedback on the initiative. And then we also invite people to get swag, which is to pick up some of the pins, get some of the stickers, do some of the things, and it will come in a little box that starts out by saying thank you. So we're really excited about the initiative. Our Chief Operating Officer, Wendy Deming, has really been the one sort of driving this with Anna Hahn. And so it's just really exciting to see the energy around this. People are asking us to come speak.
Because it's a wonderful idea and because it's so needed right now. And
always
nobody did it except Gulf Coast Community Foundation. Nobody said, wait a minute, everybody. We're going out of hand here. This is crazy. This is bad. This is wrong. Let's think about civility. Let's form the civility squad. And you know something? It's a wonderful thing. And it's a wonderful thing to have Gulf Coast Community Foundation. It's a wonderful thing to have the Ringling College of Art and Design. These are all these are organizations that love their community and make the community that much more wonderful. I remember, and I told you this before, and I don't think we have that much time. 10 years ago, apparently organizations were invited to produce videos. And one stuck in my mind all these years, and I'll tell you about it, but you really had to see it because it was so wonderfully produced. You see a room, an empty room with a round table, and then you see little girls, they must have been about 6 years old, filing in and laughing and talking and what have you, and they all take their seats around this round table. Then someone comes in with a big platter of cupcakes and puts the platter of cupcakes down, and all the girls grab a cupcake, except this one little girl. There weren't enough cupcakes, and she didn't get one. She started to cry. And the others, for a moment, stopped eating their cupcake and looked over at her. Somebody, it took a moment or two, somebody took their cupcake and broke off like half of it and put it in her plate. And she smiled. Then everybody started breaking off their cupcake and putting it in her plate, and she was just smiling, and she couldn't believe it. She kept eating the cupcake. What a wonderful feeling. I think it drives home the story simply that you can take two paths. One, selfish and not caring, but then again, it might be you who are in the other seat the next time with everybody not caring, if that's the case. Or you may be in that same seat as the girl that didn't have any cupcake, and everybody will give you part of theirs. How wonderful, what a wonderful gesture, how wonderful, how happy she was, how happy everybody was. Happy ending. Happy
Very much.
ending.
Happy ending.
Civility, the Civility Squad, you can join it. It's not, I don't think there's any money at all involved. It's just good deeds that are involved, and your heart is happy, and your head is happy, and whoever the recipient is happy. So congratulations right up front.
Thank you, Nat. Thank
Gulf
you.
Coast, and to all the wonderful things that you're doing. You're still involved with other projects as well.
We do. We have a lot of projects, some in the school system, some to help the low-income people in our region, but all to make our community better. Reading recovery, first grade.
Reading recovery has been exciting as we work with first grade students on their reading. We can respond quickly, so we had a Irma disaster fund, and Mark is now helping spearhead some strategy sessions on how do we make sure we're ready for the next, Irma.
Disaster.
Yeah, the next disaster. And so that's Mark and Terry Hansen working together to make all that happen. And it's just exciting. It's wonderful to have things that we know we've planned for. It's wonderful to be able to respond quickly when the opportunities arise.
Veronica, it's wonderful to make that many people happy. And that's what you do. I mean, you poor darlings, you're going to work each day and you say, how many thousands of people can I make happy today? And you probably find a way to do that. And
We sure try.
We try. We do.
And you love what you're doing. Okay, there's no question about it. You want to get some of these wonderful things. You want to see that video. It is adorable. It is something I probably want copies of. I don't know if you've planned that.
We can see how to do that.
Yeah, I think you can actually probably copy it right off the.
Oh, copy
off
it.
the
So
site.
there's no problem
No.
there. You can copy it off the screen, or if you have the equipment to copy something you're watching on television, or on your computer is actually where it is. Incidentally, speaking about that, I don't know if you know, my viewers, that this program and most all of our programs now not only are on SNN, and if you're going to call them because they promised to change the time back to the original 8 o'clock time, but I don't know if it's done as yet. You can call SNN and find out. But you certainly can order well, I was going to tell you, you certainly can watch YouTube because our program is on YouTube, and you see all the programs, all of our programs that are also on YouTube. And I think it's something we're very pleased with because no matter whether you live in Sarasota, and that's where we're talking from, because now we have to identify it, and we're on YouTube, because there are people watching in China and
All over the world.
and in Africa and in Cincinnati and wherever, that we are in Sarasota, Florida. And I think what we're going to do is produce a beautiful video of Sarasota, the beaches and so forth. And we'll get the Gulf Coast Community Foundation sign and show the building. It's one of our assets, one of our wonderful things that we're proud of. So that people all over the world can know how beautiful our community is.
And how civil it is.
What's that?
And how civil it is.
And how civil. Full cycle civility. Think about it and think about how wonderful it is. And then you can call and get some of these wonderful visuals and take a look at that video that is on the website. The website address is
www.gulfcoastcf.org.
Okay. Now, we are glad that you joined us. We're particularly always glad to see Mark Pritchett and the beautiful, not that you're not beautiful, I have to remind him he's beautiful, and the beautiful Veronica Brady. And keep us informed about what's happening at Gulf Coast.
Always.
And we thank you for your assist here last season so that we were able to get all new equipment and all new cameras. And
It looks
all
wonderful in here.
We
Very
thank
nice.
Gulf Coast Community
Congratulations.
Very
Foundation for
nice.
helping us with
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
We're about out of time. Keep up the wonderful work. And not that I always say thank you, but civility training lets me know to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being
Annette.
with us, and thank you for all the wonderful work you do. We're out of time. Thank you.
The time really flew. We bid you adieu from community. If you want to know why we love it here, so check out Community. Well, it's a who's who, a what's, when, and where show. It's a mover and shakers who care.